Welcome to Journey with Lei podcast. We discuss leadership, culture, and how to take your business to new heights. Your host, Lei Wang, is an adventurer, motivational speaker, and executive coach. Join us each week to learn how you and your team can reach your highest aspirations. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Journey with Lei podcast. And today we are going to flip the table, although I'm the host, but actually I'm flipping the table today, having my client, Jerry Tuso, who is also a leadership coach, interview me. So you can get to know me a little bit and get to learn what this podcast is about. What can you expect? Hi, Jerry. Thank you for coming today.
Hi, Lee. Great to be here with you. So happy to be here. So we should probably start with the background you have on your screen there. I think let's just start there because it's something that I'm inspired when I first met you about can we just touch on just give me a quick background of your experience in climbing, and then we'll kind of get into leadership and some different topics. But can you just give me a quick, where is this photo from?
Well, this photo is from Denali, the highest peak in North America. Yeah. So after a while, you guys gonna know all my background about mountain because mountain is my passion. But that was not how I started my career or my life. Actually, my past career was in IT and finance. My educational background was like strict, the kind of perfect student, perfect employee kind of background. Until one day when I was working in an investment management job, but had nothing to do with that, is I was inspired by a movie about climbing. So I had a daydream about climbing Mount Everest. So from there, I started to pursue my climbing dream. And from then on, mountain became my passion. And in 2010, I finished what you call the Explorer's Grand Slam. That is climbing the 7 summits, the 7 highest mountains on each of the continents, and ski to the North Pole and the South Pole. And luckily, I was the first Asian woman to finish it. I was the number 4 women in the world to complete it. So you can imagine from a book nerd, perfect student, perfect corporate employee kind of person to become you can call wild woman in the wilderness. That is a totally giant transformation, changed my life. So mountain is still my passion, but today I am working as a motivational speaker, as an executive coach, and I'm starting this podcast because I want to spread more of what I learned and also share the lessons from many, many other people with every one of you.
Wow, amazing. Approximately how many years did you put in the business and IT and finance world, that part of your life? How long did you go as a professional before you actually began to make this change?
I worked about 10 years in a normal corporate life, or actually more than that, because when I was climbing the mountain at the beginning, I thought that's a daydream. I didn't know that's going to become my lifetime passion. So I was working full-time in my normal job and only spending the evening, the weekends, my vacation climbing. So until many, many years later, I figured out, actually, my passion has changed, not just climbing, but also in inspiring people by speaking and coaching.
Yeah, that's amazing. So was there someone who inspired you? I know you mentioned the movie, and I think that movie is Touching the Void. Maybe I should or shouldn't say that, but it's a great movie. You and I have talked about that movie. It's inspiring. Mm-hmm. But was there someone in your experience who inspired you to be in your profession today?
There are many people. So first, I want to thank my coach when I was training for Everest, Dave Niemand. I'm forever grateful for your help because there are many fitness trainers out there. There are many sports athlete coach out there. Yeah. They can all train you physically. Yeah. But to climb Everest and to embark on anything, big dream, the most important thing is mental fitness. Mental strength. So that's why I'm forever grateful for my coach, Dave Niemand, for training to become a tough woman mentally. That carried me forward. It's not just able to climb Everest, to accomplish my goals in climbing. But also when I'm running my business, when I'm doing anything that's new, I think about how I can handle it mentally. So that's most important. And then later on, when I was starting my speaking business, at beginning, frankly saying, you can hear my voice. I'm not a perfect English speaker. I'm second language speaker, and I don't speak the proper accent and may not even speak properly grammarly. And I would wonder, like, who want to hear me to speak on the stage? So I definitely had that kind of insecurity in confidence. Yeah. So the person who inspired me most in the speaking business is Darren LaCroix. He started as a Toastmaster speaker in Massachusetts and went on to become the world champion in public speaking.
Yeah.
And when I first saw him on the stage, I felt that's too far away for me.
Yeah.
This is nothing to do with me. But then later on, when I followed him to see how he started, when he first started public speaking, he's just like any other person who's scared on the stage, doesn't know what to say, is nervous. And then, if he can start from where he was on the stage to become the world champion in public speaking, and it doesn't matter how horrible is my accent or anything, I can work on that. And so that gave me the confidence and the determination to become a motivational speaker. And also, I also had another coach, that Amanda Hennessy. She coached me on the stage. At beginning, I was really just trying to copy. How can I be like the Tony Robbins to convince everyone? How can I be the one jump up and down the stage and sell things so easily? And Amanda helped me to recognize the most important thing is to be yourself. Be authentic. People come here to hear your message, to learn from you. They don't come here trying to watch a movie, trying to pick on your accent, trying to critique your other thing. They come here to get the value for their life. So focus on what you can share with the audience. Just be yourself. I think that's the most important lesson. And also that's what I pass on to my client in the future of when I'm coaching my client, no matter it's in life, in business, in speaking, it's all same. Be yourself. You authentic yourself. That's the most confident one. That's the most.
I heard those words from you to me in my past when I worked with you. You got tears in my eyes. So I want to talk a little bit about leadership, but I want to ask you because you had self-doubt. You mentioned that you had doubt in the very beginning, right? We all talk to leaders these days that do also experience self-doubt. So those people who are out there right now who are leaders or aspiring leaders, tell me about the self-doubt and how you were inspired. You had a vision, you had a dream, but what kept you going when that self-doubt started to creep in? Did you have ways of battling that, or is this something you see today in leaders? Is this something common, just leaders having self-doubt?
Yeah, definitely. Self-doubt is at every stage of my life. And also I see at every stage of the leaders I work with. For myself, first off, when I started climbing, who am I? I'm just a little book nerd who grew up as just a school kid who never even did anything athletic. Who am I to go climb mountains? Later on, who am I to speak on the stage? Then when I was coaching my clients, at beginning, when I was like, how can I coach a CEO of a company? How can I coach someone who makes so much more money than I make? How can I coach someone who look like accomplished more than I did? So we all have that kind of insecurity. So, but every stage, like from climbing to speaking to coaching, every time I overcome that little insecurity, then I can draw the strength from previous experience. I was able to move from a book kid to a climber. I can go from someone who doesn't even speak English so much, then become a public speaker. So I can draw that kind of strength to move myself to see, okay, I can always learn, I can overcome, and I recognize what is my value, what is my special strength or my superpower I can bring into this new situation. So that's the same thing I pass on to my clients is lots of leaders, doesn't matter, people who are just looking for a new job, starting a new position, just promoted, or they become a CEO, and even they have been CEO for many companies, not starting a new business, they still have that insecurity because We are always seeking new challenge. Whenever we move into a new challenge, there's something, I have never done something like this. I have never done anything at this scale. I have never done this thing facing this kind of client base or this kind of market. So there's always insecurity. And the point is we need to draw the strength from our past experience. And of course, have the partners, your coach, your team to support you. That's super, super valuable.
Yeah, I love how you perceive that. I mean, that looking through that lens is amazing. Tell me about I don't want to ask you to define leadership. That's a little bit of a broad question, but I'll just say, there are people out there who, when we think of leadership, we might think of the CEO in a corporate setting, right? Where there's hundreds, if not thousands of people in their organization or company that they're leading. Tell me about people who are maybe not in that CEO position, but are aspiring, or maybe they're in business for themselves. They might say, I'm not leading anybody. Are they a leader? Can they be a leader? How would you define someone who are at different levels in a business, and how might they be leaders themselves, no matter what level?
Yeah, I love this question because this leadership, this podcast is about the leadership. So I think it's very important we clarify what do we mean by leadership. So for leadership, doesn't matter you are already a very influential, inspiring leader, or you're an aspiring leader, or you are even just a struggling leader, because we are all learning to grow. So more important is not by what is your position, what is your title, even how many years experience you have under your belt, it's what kind of character you are. So in my mind, I think a leader, first of all, you are conscious, mindful about growth. You are about being a leader in your life, in your family relationship, in your working relationship, in your business, in your relationship with the clients, with your partners. It's about being the leader. You consciously think about how you are influencing people. What's the impact you are making instead of what I'm doing on my to-do list, my task list every day. So being the leader is most important. And for leader also, I strongly believe in the leader being the servant. That means servant doesn't mean you just cater to everyone that need to do things. Servant means you are people-oriented. You're caring, you're loving, because the great leader not lead a big project, a business by themselves. They live by lifting up all the people they work with. So they have a big team supporting, a big team working toward the same goal. That's how you become a leader. An inspiring leader lifts other people up. And yeah.
I'm sorry, didn't even interrupt you there. Do you think people that are in a position where they don't see themselves as a leader, like, do they need to see them? Like there's a saying, is the chicken first or the egg first, right? Do they need to see themselves as a leader before they're a leader? Or do you think they start to work on themselves when they begin to feel like a leader?
Well, I think that is a little bit chicken and egg question. But the thing is, a lot of time people are already a leader without realizing they are the leader already. Because think about your everyday life. First of all, I like the concept of look at yourself as a business. How you lead your life, you're leading a business there. So consciousness of caring, loving for your own life, how you lead that, then see how you influence other people from your existence in this world. That's your impact as a leader. Then, of course, when you're consciously seeking this question about like whether I'm a leader or not, whether I'm doing, so that means you're open-minded, you're growth-oriented, you're learning, you're trying to grow. And I think that's a very important part of being a leader. Doesn't matter leading your life or leading your business, you're all leaders at a different level. And also that's what this podcast is going to be is, although I'm going to talk a lot more of my speaker on this podcast and the people I work with, they are the business leaders. They are leading big team, leading a big business. But there are also going to be a lot of people who are going to speak on this podcast are the everyday leaders. They might be just leading a very small team. They might be a struggling leader. They're trying to seek what's the best way to grow. Because leader, no matter which level, you need to constantly seek ways to grow yourself, and then you can grow your team.
Yeah, that's a great great part. I wanted to ask you the next question. You mentioned being growth minded, and so being growth minded. Talk about that, like in your business and in your life. And what is growth minded, and what would be an example of not being growth minded? What would be the opposite of that? Even for the highest level CEOs, if they're not growth minded, what does that look like? What's the danger of that?
Well, the danger part would be the ego get in the way, because when you're not growth minded, like I talk to a lot of leaders. Some leaders, they say, oh, my team is perfect, my business is great. Like sound like there's nothing I can improve, where they did everything, our best effort, and just I don't need any help. Everything is perfect here. I would say that's kind of close-minded, because the lot of leaders I work with, their business would frankly say, when I walked in, I have the kind of insecurity, like, oh, this is so great. What can I help here? Who am I going to help them? But they always like, I'm sure there's things we don't see. There are things we're not aware of. There are things we didn't even know we need to improve. That's why we need outside help. We need another eye. We need someone who think outside this box, not living in this system, so they can give us a fresh eye to see where we can improve. That is growth minded. You don't even know where is your problem, but you know there's always place you can improve. That's growth minded.
Yeah. You were just talking about perspective right there. Tell me about the impact of having perspective, or taking perspective, someone else's perspective, someone from the inside or the outside in their business or their life. Like having the ability to talk through someone else's perspective, or see through the lens of someone else's perspective. How valuable is that?
Yeah, definitely. Like I think you probably also had that experience, like in your own daily life, a lot of things if you just talk to yourself, you're going to find, oh, either you convince yourself this is the only way to do it, or there's no way out of here, or this is just absolute. Everything in your own mind can be very simple, or there's no end. But when you just even say that out to an outsider, say, for example, sometimes just say to a stranger on the street about what you are just contemplating or frustrated about, the outsider can just listen without saying anything. You just talk until you hear yourself is, oh, I got it. That's so weird. How come I never thought about it? So when you can say that out loud, someone else is hearing it with you, you can hear yourself better. And not to say that person may have a fresh perspective, point out something, hey, you didn't see what's behind you because you can't see it. Yeah. You totally don't see, you have a blind spot, but it's so obvious to the outside person. So fresh perspective is super valuable, and you don't even know what you're looking for.
Yeah, so true. Now we're recording this. I mean, it's been 2 years now. It's during COVID. I'm kind of curious your take on, during a time when people that are in an office space, if they are if they have a team and they're having to lead through Zoom, right? Tell me about the challenge and kind of persevering through that, dealing with Zoom, dealing with the inability to travel and restrictions, things like that. Like how leaders need to make sure that they don't use that as a way to keep their teams from communicating. What do leaders need to do in a time like this? It's a great snapshot in life also, when times are, if there's any kind of a struggle, even outside of COVID, right? If there's a financial issue with the company and you're a leader, how to kind of navigate through those troubled waters. Tell me though about, like, during these times in COVID, we're all forced to deal with it. So how does a leader kind of just work through the scenario of let's just say COVID or anything similar to it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, this almost like I'm going to just leak out a little bit about the future episodes, because
Perfect.
This is a question on many people's minds. So in the next few episodes, you're going to hear from leaders how they handle this in their daily work. So one big lesson is shared vulnerability, because as a leader, not only your employee are dealing with the kids at home, dealing with sitting in one corner of the house for many hours, dealing with uncertainty. You as a leader, you are dealing that too. So it's important you share this vulnerability, that your team communicates, that you allow the space for everyone to heal, to grow, to finding the peace and the caring and the loving in this kind of environment. So that brings the team together. And another very common situation is the dynamics of the team changed, not just the stress part. It's also when you're in the office, you can high five each other for finishing a project. You can throw a big party to celebrate. So a lot of leaders asking, oh, it's just the fun of being with the team is gone, even though like we can manage the stress. So you're also going to hear from some of the episodes that how other leaders using creativity to celebrate with their team. They come up with genius idea how to send the fun thing to their employees' home so they can share that virtually at the same time and still enjoying the celebration, the team bonding. So there's a lot of fun episodes coming up that you're going to hear the practical solutions the leaders come up in their real life in today's world.
Absolutely. I think one of the things for leaders is what can define them. And I think during COVID, it's definitely defining some of them is their ability to change and their ability to pivot. And what worked before may not work going forward, or it may, but you have to kind of examine and look internally on yourself as a leader and ask yourself, do I need to change? How important is it when you're working with leaders of all different types to get them to kind of change or kind of talk through change? How important is it for people to perceive change as a positive thing and not, a negative or fearful?
Well, definitely the people I work with, they tend to already all growth minded, so that they definitely understand that we all need to change. And when we see the change in a positive eye, under the positive lens, then you see the opportunity. And every time, like normally I start working with my clients on issues in their work or their team. And a simple question will be, oh, so is that only an issue with your team members or yourself feeling it too? Then they're going to recognize, oh, I need to work on that myself too. So if as a leader, you are burned out, you are stressed out, you cannot even have life balance, you cannot manage your priority, then your team will have the same issue. They will be overloaded. They'll be stressed out. They don't know what's the most important thing they should work on.
Yeah. You mentioned consciousness, and I want to just touch on that. Tell me about what that means to you is the consciousness in leadership. So talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind. Tell me about
it. Definitely. The consciousness is in the practical way to say is, well, you need to allocate time to do meditation, self-care, because any life without reflection, you lose half of that insight. So you need to have this set aside time to reflect on what did I learn? How did the day go? Where I can improve? And where do I want to go tomorrow? So that's a reflection of your own life, your own performance. But also, when you set enough time aside, you also get to see how you are being as a leader, how you are interacting with the people, how you're influencing people. So being requires you to be conscious, be mindful. When we're too busy doing all the time, we just check, finish this to-do list, but totally didn't have time to reflect on how we're being here.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think also a person in leadership, to influence others at their highest capacity, they need that time to to nurture themselves through meditation, exercise, whatever it might be. And I think sometimes if it's about ourselves, we may not do it, but if we know we're going to serve others better at a higher level in a better way, we'll actually do the things of self-care to make sure we can deliver our best selves. So even for myself, I know if I do a better job on my own self-care, I'll serve my clients better. Then I'll do it. But if it's just for me, I may or may not do it. But if it's for others, I definitely don't. I want to bring my best self to impact others. So it's a funny sort of dichotomy there.
Yeah, definitely. And also let's touch a point, like sometimes one of the questions leader asks is like, oh, so I hired people who are better than me, who are more capable than me, like, will that be a threat to my position? So the question is, how are you growing with that? So if you as a leader, you are growing and you strive to grow fast and you're lifting up your team, then they'll always look up to you as a leader. But if you're trying to control, trying to suppress, other people's growth, you're going to limit your own growth too. Then you're not going to be able to stay as a strong leader for long.
That's a great point. If you're, I was just listening to a podcast this morning about that, and tell me for kind of your thoughts on if I'm a leader of a team, let's say at a company, and there are other teams, there's sort of, there's an inherent competition in a corporate world, right? Whether it's real or not, we sort of will always have a level of competition. I do believe in healthy competition. How do you celebrate other successes? How does a leader, what would in a spirit of good, solid leadership, how do I celebrate others when I know I'm not the one sort of winning, if you will?
Yeah,
how do you celebrate others? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the important question. And I think the foundation is a corporate culture. So from the very beginning, the corporate culture is about how we can achieve a common goal, not individual goals. So if achieve the common goal require the team effort in this way, in that way, we are aligned on the same value, then that's easy to say this behavior or that behavior is something we should celebrate, or certain kind of behavior is not aligned with where we want to go as a corporate, as an organization. So definitely, if the team effort going to achieve the common goal, then we should give the credit to the people, and people will be encouraged. They'll be celebrated, recognized, and they'll be more motivated to put in more effort. Then the whole organization can grow. If we only promote individual performance at the cost of the team's value, then eventually you're going to see those star performers. They will seek other opportunities too, and other people will be discouraged from putting better effort.
I want to ask you about, again, there's always someone sort of, unless we're a CEO, there's always someone typically that we report to, right? If we're in that structure or whatnot. What if someone above us in the structure is not as positive, is not what we would consider maybe a good leader? How do we still live a life of being a solid leader and inspiring others when we are not inspired by someone above us? If we have a struggle, some people I think might put the brakes on and feel like I can't be a leader because this person above me won't let me be a leader. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, definitely. There are two sides. One, of course, one simple question to decide, do you want to stay or do you want to go? Is this kind of environment you want to be? So that's the simple way to look at it, and how many people look at situation in this way. But there's another way to look at it is, doesn't matter if you see the structure, everything as external factors, then what's the best you can do within this? What you can do within your power? Are you making your best effort? In that way, you have no regret. For example, you can hear from future episodes, there's leaders in that situation too. Yep. I'm glad you asked all the questions about the future episodes. So there are some leaders, like, for example, their boss doesn't support how to give the bonus to employee, or doesn't support flexible working hours, that before COVID, for employees. Then the manager can just, within his power, how he can just maximize team's engagement by be flexible within the team without have to tell the boss in some way. So you as a leader, so I say the leader in the middle, so I'm people-oriented and I want to care my team. So I believe this is the best way I can care my team. Then that's how I'll do it without violating company's policy or something. It's except without support, but I still have some power to do it. But also on the other side, like a lot of time, there's some, you're going to hear from some episode that will be the leader in the military structure. Yes, even you don't agree, but if this is your job to support the common goal of the company, then we can set aside our dissatisfaction temporarily, work toward the same goal first, then we settle this disagreement. Outside, after I finish this goal, what's the best for the corporation? What's the best for everyone on the team? So then you come to question again of the value of what's your decision. So it's not just the black and white instantly. You have to evaluate within the big picture and also evaluate within you as a leader. What's the best effort you can do at this situation.
Great. Tell me about making decisions as a leader in their ability. I think I'm sure we both have come across leaders who at times can make quick decisions. I think there's an adage about leaders make quick decisions, but not all decisions. Sometimes the decision will definitely not be a benefit to all parties, right? It'll definitely, they have to make really challenging decisions that could be potentially life-altering decisions for people on their teams. Tell me about making decisions as a leader and the challenge and the struggle that probably people you've worked with go through on that.
Yeah, definitely. So you're going to hear some case studies in the future, and you're going to hear some speakers who speak on this topic too. So decision making is a big part of leadership. You, as a leader, you need to be courageous. You need to be able to take on risk, because a lot of time, yes, there's always something we're going to lose. However, you have to see what is the bigger thing you are going to lose if you don't take the risk, if you don't make the decision. So you just have to be able to evaluate based on your value system, what is the right decision to take at that time, even you have to sacrifice something else. So that happens in everyday life. Like, for example, the simple thing for climbing, right? People ask me like a lot, what's the most dangerous situation on the mountain? How were you able to take a risk on that? The thing is, if there's something we value so much, so important for our life, and we're not willing to take the risk, what are we losing? You're basically risking your life, all your life, for something you fear about. So which one worth living better? Your most important value, or just this something you're going to lose at this moment?
Yeah. So I want to ask you one more question about your past, and then ask you about, like, how would you advise others when you decided to leave and make the big change from your IT finance background? People are going through those decisions, and I think now, due to COVID, a lot of those type of decisions, people are making big life changes. For someone that has a vision or a dream to do something, whether it's starting their own business or maybe it's going after a great job at some big corporate, whatever it is, doesn't matter. If they're struggling with that decision, what would you share with someone just who has this sort of vision, and they might believe they're the only person that could actually have this, right, or achieve this?
Exactly.
What would you say to someone who has this and they're just not sure, like, is this always just going to be a dream that I never really go after? Or do I just hold it as a dream because it's a safety zone? Because if I try to go after it, I might fail, right? What would you say to someone who has this, like you, if you never went and climbed, but you had this like vision to do it, but then you never did it? Tell me about that. Like, if someone's really thinking about doing something or starting something, but they're struggling with the decision.
Yeah, first I'll tell you what's the now right way to do it. So that's a quick story. When I was just starting to have this daydream about climbing, I was thinking about all the time, spending all my free time, vacation, and everything on climbing. And then I begin to, wow, what I'm doing with my career sounds like I have to choose, stay in this career track or pursue my climbing dream. And at that time, like, wow, I have this, my MBA education, I have a student loan to carry, I have this career track in front of me. I'm losing a lot if I give up all this to go climbing. And of course, my family doesn't support me because this is totally against the Chinese family value. So at that time, I went to a presentation that organized by Patagonia. Some famous climber came to do the presentation. They're my idol. So I went to ask her, how did you make the decision to give up your life, your career, to go climbing full time? And guess what's the answer? She said, wow, when I made that decision, I was 19 and I was working at a restaurant waiting table. So it was pretty easy. So I learned, oh, okay. So actually, no one can give you the answer. Right now, we bombarded with all kinds of information all over the places. We like to ask other people, how did you make that decision? How did you decide? How did you pick this? The truth is, yes, you can ask, but no one can make that decision for you. No one's decision-making process can apply to your unique situation. So you have to think through yourself. So then I went back home and said, okay, her answer doesn't really help me. Right. I have to figure out on my own. Then I just suddenly had the idea of like, right now I'm standing in front of this big mountain, don't know how to go. I'm facing this obstacle. I don't know how to make a decision. What if many, many years later, say I'm 80 years old, looking back from top of the mountain, from end of the road, looking back in front of the obstacle, how should I have made a choice? Should I stay at this job, keep this career track, or should I just make an attempt of something I dreamed about? Then I see, oh, actually it's pretty clear, because when you look back, the obstacle becomes so much smaller. And you're going to see that obstacle is just a tiny rock on the road, not a giant mountain on this in front of you. And if, say, you failed at this attempt, if you're smart, you're willing to work hard, and you have this growth mind, you always can come back to learn something new, take on a new job. If this track is correct for you, you can work your ass off and get back on this track to continue to walk on this road if that is the right road for you. So there's always a way out, but the obstacle in front of you right now looks so big. Just step outside, step far away from it, and look at it, how big is this obstacle. And you probably have advice for yourself that no one can give you.
Yeah, I love it. And that it's difficult to make some of those decisions because the safety net, the safety zone, things they're used to, right? It's almost like that's a very dangerous place to be. Like they're telling themselves it's a safety zone, but life starts outside of the safety zone sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Right?
definitely. So take a chance to live your passion, follow your heart. That is my message to people who are listening. And that's what the message I often say to my audience when I was speaking, because only when you live your life with the courage, take a chance, you're going to see a much bigger world.
Thank you, Lee. That was fantastic.
Yeah, looks like we have to wrap up now.
I think it's about that time. But on that message, I don't think we can get any better to end on that message right there. I have goosebumps on my arms. So that's usually a good sign.
Great. Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah. And we'll have many, many more fun episodes coming up. And appreciate everyone listening today. And please follow us. And I want to see you in the future episodes. I promise there will be a lot of value you can gain from everyday leader. They're inspiring leaders, aspiring leaders, struggling leaders. They're leaders in all kinds of career tracks, professions. You keep an open mind, a growth mind. You're going to learn something valuable every time. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Journey with Lei. What's your most valuable takeaway from today's episode? What is one step that you are inspired to take? Start tapping into your power of excitement and become the leader you are always meant to be. If you dare to dream it, you can achieve it. Go to journeywithlei.com or email hello@journeywithlei.com. We'll see you again next week.